Hello fellow human, welcome back to another Dank Doko r / entitled Parents videos. Do you guys love Pokemon? If you do, what is your favorite starter Pokemon? The first story is posted by you / Maddie Hercelius and is furious about Pokemon Go. So the other night I decided to go to a local lake and walk around to play some Pokemon Go. There are dozens of Pokestops around the lake and quite a few gyms too. So it's a prime location to play. Also, I'm 22 and I went with a friend who is 28. It was a quiet night, not a whole lot of people walking around. We approach a park and shelter area and notice there's a raid about to start. So we sit at the shelter area to play it. I'm not sure how to explain this if you're unfamiliar with the game, lol. We happened to be the only people there, and across the trail was a park with a few kids and a mom barely paying attention. We're sitting there waiting for the raid to start for about 5 minutes when this mom comes over to us. Entitled mom. Can I ask, what are you doing here? Me, we're playing Pokemon Go. Why? Well, it's pretty creepy. You two adults are just sitting here near the park. You need to leave. Me, what? We're minding our own business. Maybe you should too. You're making me and my children uncomfortable. I don't know what that Pokemon Go is, but it sounds like an excuse to watch my kids. Me, well, we will only be here for like 10 more minutes, lady. We aren't watching your kids. Ridiculous. She then storms back over to the park and sits on the phone with someone. About 3 minutes later, she grabs her kids and comes over again, yelling at us now that her kids can't enjoy the park because us creeps want to kidnap them. She also explained to her children, who both looked to be younger than 10, that they had to leave because we were going to hurt them. I was baffled and didn't even know what to say. It's a public trail, public park, public shelter, and on lots of days, there are dozens of adults playing Pokemon Go. It was so strange. I mean, two nerdy young men glued their eyes to the phones are somehow dangerous to this Karen. Wow, just wow. We have here the second story. Don't be rude to the McDonald's cashier if you didn't get the Pokemon Happy Meal toy that you want, because he controls what goes into the box. I like Pokemon, and I also like McDonald's. So when McDonald's decided to release some legendary Pokemon Happy Meal toys, I was ecstatic. They offered 2 different Pokemon every week, so every Saturday for about a month, I would walk down to my local McDonald's and buy whatever Pokemon figure they had that week. I ended up with Latias, Latios, Groudon, Kyogre, Dialga, and Palkia by the end of the month. Funny thing is, I only originally intended to buy Latias and Palkia because they were my favorite of the section. I got Latias on day 1, but I spent weeks trying to get a Palkia. I bought the rest of the figures each week as so not to waste a trip. And the employees start to recognize me. This is important. The next week is when my stories happens. I walk into McDonald's and get into the queue. Ahead of me, a woman, let's call her Karen. Oh wait, actually no, let's not call her Karen. Pokemon has a character called Karen and she's really sweet and inspirational. Let's call this woman Debbie. Debbie is in a screaming fit at a poor cashier. She's waving an unopened Dialga figure in his face. Apparently, this Dialga is from a previous Happy Meal, and she was trying to get it replaced, which is why she had it before she made her order. Debbie, what do you mean you don't have any other Pokemons? The plural of Pokemon is Pokemon, lady. Employee, we only have 2 this week, that one and the blue and the white dragon. Latios, I'm assuming. Debbie, I don't want this retarded horse or a dragon, get me a pink one. Employee, we don't have, Debbie, yes you do. I saw a pink one on the TV, so you should have it. I want to see a manager. Employee, firmly, look ma'am, the manager would only say the same thing I've said. We only have 2 figures this week. The pink one that you're talking about is not here because we haven't ordered it yet. If you want any other figures left over from last week, Debbie, I don't care. Go look for one. Employee signs and starts digging around in the basket. His eyes go wide for a moment as he pulls out a Palkia figure. Looking as though he didn't expect it to be in the basket. Then he noticed me behind Debbie and his face turns into an uh-oh face. Debbie noticed that he's found a Palkia figure. Debbie, there! That wasn't so hard, was it? He signs and puts it into a Happy Meal box that Debbie ordered. Debbie smiles smugly and goes to sit down at her table. Instead of grabbing the box and returning to her seat, she expects it to be delivered to her. Typical. Employee goes to take my order. Employee, I'm sorry, but that was the only palkia we have. We haven't actually ordered more yet, so that one must have fallen in there by mistake during delivery. Me, well, that's fine, I'll just come in next week. Employee suddenly smiles as though he thought of something. Employee, so you want a chicken nugget Happy Meal? Me, what? Employee grabs Debbie's Happy Meal box from the counter and hands it to me. Me, whoa, what are you doing? Employee, I'll just say that you ordered the same thing and that I gave you the wrong box by mistake. So, I ended up taking my Happy Meal box home and the palkia figure inside. TLDR, employee is aware that I've come into McDonald's every week for a month looking for a palkia Happy Meal toy. Debbie is rude to him, so he accidentally gives me Debbie's Happy Meal and the palkia inside it. If you're worried about what happened to the employee, so I went back to the McDonald's today to find out the aftermath. This is all I remember from a few hours ago when he told me, so the dialogue isn't 100% accurate. Apparently, employees saw that Debbie had a young kid with her, so he fished out a Latias, the most girly, cute Pokemon from the toy basket, and put that in the box instead. After he delivered the box, Debbie immediately snatched the toy out of the box and was about to let loose a screaming session when she saw it wasn't palkia. Debbie's kid saw the Latias and opened it immediately and looked really happy with it. Debbie's kid, it looks so cute! Debbie, what the duck? This isn't a pink one! Employee, I'm sorry ma'am, but someone else ordered the same meal. And I gave them your box by accident. I tried to find another pink one, and that's the closest I could get. Debbie looked like she wanted to huff again, but her kid was happy with the lattice anyway, so Debbie couldn't say anything, since she technically got the Pokemon that her daughter wanted. This really got me thinking, like, was the Pokemon figure really for her kid because the child is happy and the mother is somehow angry? Next up, we have the third story shared by u/Eco on. EK gets a Steam ban and blames computer we sold them, and blaming our tech department for a free-to-play game not working. But just in case, here's some context. We sold a new gaming computer to this entitled kid, EK, a few weeks ago. Custom built, based on what he wanted to use it for 3 or so weeks. Prior to this, the entitled mom, M, came into the shop complaining that the computer was useless and broken because it wouldn't play this specific game. It was Ghost Recon Online, it was during the early period of the release and was riddled with bugs, and I managed to fix it then. This brings me to this day, 3 weeks after the initial fix. Our shop had fluctuating foot traffic. Some days we have no customers, some days we have too many. It was the start of a new month, everyone had their salaries paid in. This means our shop was very busy. We barely had any reps to deal with customers. We only had like 3 people working on any given day. I was busy talking to a customer at the tech desk with a laptop that has a lot of issues. From mails not working, to USB ports not working, to even blue screens of death. In Walks of M, no EK, In Walks of M, no EK, no PC. I thought M maybe have just been shopping around for new games or keyboard or something for EK, and walks up to the tech desk, to which I just quickly greeted with a, "Hi M, I'll be with you in a minute." M stood there, arms crossed, tapping her foot, as if I was inconveniencing her by talking to a customer. About 5 minutes after I booked in the laptop, printed the necessary works orders, M looked at me with this finally look. M then proceeded to ask me, I've been waiting forever. Are you going to pick up this computer for my car or not? I just looked on with a confused face. M then told me she phoned the shop my work colleague answered, and she said that she was on her way to drop off EK's computers again. She had apparently been parked waiting outside our shop in the disabled parking spot for 15 minutes. To anyone that doesn't know, we have a disabled parking right by our front door. We were so busy that my colleagues afterwards had to apologize because we didn't have time to look outside for a car to pick up a computer. And he got too busy to inform me M was on her way. Customers did this often, but I do have a few more stories about stuff like this. So, onto the computer. I went outside to fetch the machine. M annoyed again, asking why the game doesn't work. After a few minutes, and an M trying to explain what her son told her, I said I can figure it out and have a look at it. She then knew to ask what the labor cost would be due to the previous event. Knowing how stingy she is, I told her no more than 20 bucks. She seemed fine with this if it was the game's fault again this time. This time? Please, lady, the computer is working fine. I have the same issues with the game at home. After printing out the papers, she left. This is where the fun begins. We couldn't access the account for some reason. I just remember having difficulty opening Steam. At this point, I just thought he forgot his details, and we did the whole Steam password reset theme. After an hour of no results, I write an email to Steam support asking for help with the account. The next day, Steam wrote back with something along the lines of, "The Steam account has violated the term of services and is therefore banned." It was a lengthy email detailing why the account got banned, and that it cannot be retrieved. I was shocked at this email. EK tried to add pirated Steam games to the Steam library. There were no actual bought games in his library, and I saw the icons on the desktop for a few games that cost well over 20 bucks, and bought aim hacking software for Ghost Recon Online. Knowing now why the games wasn't working, I called M to ask her and EK to come to the shop, so I can explain to her why the game isn't working. This didn't seem like something I could say over the phone. I don't know exactly why his Steam account itself was banned. Usually a VAC ban only affects the game you cheated in, but I think he may have even tried to crack Steam to get games for free. I don't have a lot of experience with Steam bans, so forgive me for being a bit hazy on the details. This was around 5 years ago after all. A while later, they both entered the store. As this was a Sunday, it was a lot quieter. I had printed out the response I got from Steam, and I told her that EK had been using illegal software that he also bought with her credit card without permission, and that Steam has banned his account. I handed her the printout mail, so she could inform that I wasn't lying or making any excuses. The look in EK's face was priceless. At this point, he knew he royally screwed up. He screwed that pooch. His face went white. M turned over to him and asked what this was all about, and he just nodded and said, "Sorry." She was livid, asking how he could use her credit card without her permission. How could he buy illegal software? How he could lie to her face about all of it? At this point, EK was bawling his eyes out. This is where I start getting some respect for M. She didn't even complain about the labor price. She, in turn, asked us to keep the PC in the shop for the whole week, so EK could learn a lesson and clear it of all the illegal software. She was even fine with paying the extra labor hours. At the end, we did a full new Windows install, as the cracks and hacks had tons of viruses included, so we spent a lot of time working on the computer. Unfortunately, later on, M went back to being her entitled trampy self again, refusing to pay 35 bucks for 2 days of full labor for 2 tablets, her phone, and EK's gaming rig. I was really hoping she'd change or somehow redeem herself, but nope, went back to her old self. Moving on to the 4th story shared by u/Glory of Dawn. I don't care if you're living here, my daughter wants to rent. As with many folks, I didn't think I had anything to contribute here. But when I actually read the sign on our front door for the first time in a few months, I remembered a good one. My wife and I moved to Mississippi after getting married. She's a native and I'm out of state. We met online and had the wedding in my hometown. She had a full ride and assistantship at Mississippi State, so it didn't make sense to have her give that up. We were fortunate in that her grandfather had an extra property he wasn't using, and he lets us stay there rent-free. It's a crap shack in the middle of the woods that was built by an idiot who has no business playing Legos, much less building an actual structure. But hey, it's free. I can only complain so much. My wife's schedule varies greatly by the day, which saw her phone at the house while I was working when the entitled mother showed up. M, entitled mother, W, wife, GIL, grandfather-in-law. So my wife's hanging out in the living room doing some work before she has to leave for class when she hears someone drive up. Our house is really out of the way, so we don't have guests. She then sees a slightly older lady walked by the window. Not seeing a threat, she went and answered the door when the knock came. Wife, can I help you? Yes, I wanted to talk about renting this place for my daughter. Wife, oh, sorry, but me and my husband are living here. Well, my daughter is in college and needs a place to stay. Wife, well, that is great and all, but like I said, I live here. I was hoping I could talk to grandfather-in-law. Wife, getting irritated. No, the house isn't for... I know him personally, you see, and I wanted to talk to him about renting. Wife, I don't care if you know him, your daughter can't stay here. My husband and I live here, what aren't you getting about that? Young lady, I'm sure grandfather-in-law won't appreciate that you're talking to me like this. Wife, I'm sure my grandfather won't give a damn that I told you your daughter is going to have to find another place to live. M looks shocked at the mention that Gil is actually my wife's grandfather, and she wasn't some random squatter living in his house. She huffs and turns on her heel and goes back to her car. My wife goes back inside and uses a sturdy note card to create a sign that is tabbed to our front door to this day. We are not and will not be renting. Management? That is probably the most amazing sign she made. The fifth story is shared by you / it's Amy, honey. Change your outfit, you're a girl. Let us begin. So a few weeks ago, I was in grocery store, right? Nothing unusual. I had a particularly rough day. So I wasn't in the mood for dressing up, just a blue t-shirt from one of my old school's shorts and sneakers. I had just finished getting everything I needed when I got into line. That is when I saw EP. Now, this woman only had 2 things in her cart. Her toddler, a little boy who was probably around 3, and way too much booze. I mean, like the whole cart section of the cart was absolutely filled with bottles. Also worth mentioning that this woman, probably mid-30s, was wearing a hot pink crop top. Alright, that's pretty bad, but it's not my business, and I'm not in the mood to argue with someone. She pays for her things and begins to leave, so I begin to do the same. I'm at the card chip reader when I feel a tap on my shoulder. I turn around and the trouble begins. Me, hello ma'am, can I help you? Yes, I was wondering if you could change your shirt. Me, dumbfounded, I'm sorry, what? Well, blue is not a girl's color, and I don't want my son to get the wrong idea about what is acceptable to wear. Me, I'm sorry, I will not be doing that. If you want your son to learn those types of things, you can do it at your house, but I'm allowed to wear whatever I feel like wearing. Oh, don't be so unladylike. Just change out of that shirt. Me, I will if you can give me one good reason. Blue is not for girls. Me, okay, well, crop tops aren't for witches, but you are here. At this point, I just made sure I had everything and walked away. I heard her mutter something to the cashier as I left, but I couldn't hear her, and I honestly don't care. And the real question would be, how exactly were you supposed to change your shirt while at the grocery store? That's it for today, fellow humans. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys next time.